All right, today we will continue our lesson with rates and unit rates and some real world problems with them. So here, Mr. Anthony drives his truck at a speed of 45 kilometers per hour. So at this speed, we want to figure out how far he'll travel in 2 hours. Well, if he goes 45 kilometers per hour, that means he's going to go 45 the first hour. He'll then go 45 kilometers the second hour. So we could just take 45 times 2, and we would determine that he goes 90 kilometers. So for part B, we want to figure out how far he travels in 5 hours. Well, it's the same idea as part A, except instead of traveling for 2 hours, he's traveling for 5 hours. So we would take 45 times 5, which gives us 225 kilometers. And we have a new formula that we can utilize here. And the one in the upper left says distance equals speed times time. And the one in the right-hand side says distance equals rate times time. Rate and speed are interchangeable there. So we took the speed that we knew Mr. Anthony was driving, and we multiplied it by how long he was driving for. So if we use that idea with this one, we have a racing car can travel at a speed of 175 kilometers per hour. How far can the racing car travel in 3 hours? We would take our rate times our time, and we would get 525 kilometers. If we have a high-speed train, travels at a speed of 65 meters per second. How far can the train travel in 2 seconds? Well, our rate is 65. Our time is 2. 65 times 2 is 130 meters. Lucas ran round a field at a speed of 8 meters per second. How long did he take to run a distance of 96 meters? So if we use our formula, distance equals rate times time. If he ran around a field at a speed of 8 meters per second, speed would be our rate. So we put 8 in for rate. And how long did he take to run a distance of 96 meters? So that would be our distance. And we now have an algebraic equation, and we need to utilize our skills for solving algebraic equations that we learned earlier this year. And since we're multiplying, we do the opposite of that, which is divide. And 96 divided by 8 would be 12 seconds. Excuse me. Distance between city X and city Y is 216 kilometers. Mr. Thomas rides his motorcycle at a speed of 54 kilometers per hour. How long does he take to travel from city X to city Y? So once again, distance equals rate times time. We're told that the distance is 216 kilometers, so we put 216 in. We're told he has a speed of 54 kilometers, so that's our rate. And once again, we need to calculate the time. So just as we did in the previous one, we're going to divide both sides by 54. So we might have to do our division off to the side here. And if you remember in a previous lesson, if you're not sure what to divide by, you could start with 5. And you multiply your divisor by 5 and see if it's too high, too low, or just right. Another option would be to look at the first digit. Our first digit's 5. And we would ask ourselves how many times would 5 go into 21? Well, 5 would go into 21 4 times. So let's see what 54 times 4 gives us. And would you look at that? It gives us 216. So we would have a time of 4 hours. And then finally today, we are going to calculate what is known as average speed. The speed that an object is traveling over a distance may not be the same all the time. For example, a bicycle might speed up or slow down as it travels between 2 points over a given amount of time. So you can use an average speed to describe how fast the bicycle is traveling. So I'm going to scroll down here so we can see this example. So post A and B are 9 meters apart. Post B and C are 21 meters apart. Takes them 2 seconds to go from A to B, 3 seconds to go from B to C. So I'll extend this page here so we can see that a little bit better. When calculating average speed, we take total distance and we divide it by total time. So to calculate our total distance, from A to B is 9, from B to C is 21, so 9 plus 21 is 30. Our total time, it takes 2 seconds to get from A to B. It takes 3 seconds to get from B to C. So that's a total of 5 seconds. 30 divided by 5 would give us an average speed of 6 meters per second. And then just to reiterate the average speed formula, we have this information here for you. And let's take a look at problem number 7 here. The distance between P and Q is 80 miles. And the distance between Q and R is 320 miles. The van takes 2.5 hours to travel from P to Q. And it takes 5 hours to travel from Q to R. So if we want our total distance, we would take 320 plus 80 to get 400. Our total time would be 5 plus 2.5, which would give us 7.5. Remember, this is division, so we can rewrite division. So 400 divided by 7.5, which would be 400 over 1, divided by 15 over 2. I just converted to improper fractions there. Keep times turn. I can divide 415 by 5. That gives me a 3. This gives me 80. 80 times 2 is 160. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 goes into 16 5 times. 16 minus 15 is 1. Bring down the 0, you got a 10. 3 goes into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. 10 minus 9 is 1. And so we would have an average speed of 53 1/3 miles per hour. And finally, Celia ran around a 400-meter track 2 times. So that gives us a total distance of 800 meters. It took her 4 minutes to run around the track. Excuse me, around the track once, and 6 to run around it again. So that gives a total of 10 minutes. So 800 divided by 10 would be 80 meters per minute. And that's all for today's lesson. As always, I hope this helps.